What we are seeing now is nothing less than the worst nightmare that one could imagine come to life, probably worse than anyone could have imagined. You may remember that Tom Clancy wrote a novel that ends with a terrorist hijacker crashing into the Capitol.
Tom Clancy.
Let's reopen 9/11, get a new investigation. It's been almost 10 years to the day. It's about time we did get a new investigation to find out who did it.
There, he also reportedly was a private individual assassin that worked on overthrowing governments. He, of course, also has co-authored many of the books with Tom Clancy. That's on record, and also is at IMDb, the International Movie Database, as the producer of some of those books into TV and movies. Talk a little bit about the novels and what went into making them so realistic, and maybe get his view on what Tom Clancy, who I was reading last night that they're working on some new books together, what his views are on this. But I would imagine that he probably won't want to speak for Tom Clancy. Perhaps he can help us get him on the broadcast. I know a year before 9/11, Tom Clancy wrote a book about a passenger jet being flown into the World Trade Center. I wonder if that's one of the books that Pieczenik advised on. I know he's listed as the co-author on quite a few of them, but he joins us. Now, can you walk through this fairy tale, Doctor?
Yeah. What happens is you invoked Goering. Let me invoke a man in 1945, a German senior official next to Goering, who was asked the following question by 3 American judges. He was asked, how did you mobilize 35 million people to go to war? His response was, it's very simple. Whether you're a democracy, whether you're communism, or whether you're Nazi nationalism, it's very simple. What you do is you create an attack, a false flag attack. Then you say whoever attacked us is the enemy, and whoever's with us against the enemy is a patriot. Well, that's what happened in 9/11, and the man who was asked that question was Goering, the head of the Air Force. He subsequently committed suicide, and that was in front of the commission and our prosecutors in the Nuremberg trial. So the technique is an old technique of trying to demonize and create we're the patriots in the United States, and anybody against them are enemies.
And Aaron, we should remember what Wesley Clark told Judy Woodruff a couple of minutes ago about how much U.S. authorities have been worried about such an attack, how hard they've worked to try to fight it, how something may have gone wrong. And I believe we have on the phone right now someone who, both in fact and fiction, has dealt with justice, and that's author Tom Clancy.
Mr. Clancy, this is, I guess, a terrible case of life imitating art.
I suppose you could say that. It's a noteworthy incident. I mean, it's not the sort of thing it's the sort of thing that's best left in a novel rather than in real life. Unfortunately, one of the problems with being an author is keeping up with reality.
From your own knowledge, how concerned have the authorities been that something of this scale could possibly hit on American soil?
It's Jeff Greenfield, right?
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Okay, well, Jeff, you've been here to the house. I mean, it's. I had a conversation some years ago with an Air Force general about the possibility rather like this. And I ended up putting in one of my books where you go where a bad guy takes an aircraft into the Capitol building during a joint session of Congress, which could effectively decapitate the whole government. And at the time it seemed rather humorous. I said, surely you've thought about things like this. And he said, well, to the best of my knowledge, nobody in my office has looked at this, but I promise you Monday morning they will be. Presumably they've been, they've considered this possibility for some time. The big problem is a person who is willing to lose his own life in voluntarily in a terrorist incident. People like that are fairly rare, because self-preservation is indeed the first law of nature, and not too many people are willing to throw their lives away, and those who do it generally do it for religious reasons because they think there's something good waiting for them on the other side of death. In a case like this, that's going to lean people towards talking about, Islamic fanatics. But we need to remember that, Islam is a religion, and it's a religion with beliefs not terribly different from Judaism or Christianity. Or they believe in a God of love and justice the same as we do, and they're not all maniacs. And religious tolerance is one of the principles of our country. We need to hold on to that principle very tightly right now, because it's the principles you hold on to when things are tough that really count.
Fair point.
This is, this was an act by a small number of madmen, and madmen don't characterize any part of humanity.
Whoever is behind this is of a dimension that literally dwarfs even fantasy.
Pretty much. I dreamed pretty big when I dreamed, and fortunately or unfortunately, it didn't get quite this large. It's not, generally speaking, it's not credible to think that you're going to find more than one person who's willing to do something like this, because people who are willing to throw their lives away are fairly rare. In this case, they got somebody who was well organized and produced a well planned and reasonably well executed operation.
Well,
and we need to find out who it was and then to go after him. But that's that's going to take time. But we do have the people to do that if they have the proper support from the executive branch of the government and from the general population of our country to identify, locate, and deal with the people who performed this act.
The president said earlier today, shortly after the Trade Center attacks, the president characterizing these as terrorist attacks and said that the United States government will do whatever it is necessary to hunt down those people responsible. I think it is fair to say, Tom, Jeff, all of you on the line here, it is fair to say that what we know is that this is an extraordinarily large operation, and what we don't know, in a way, is just how big it is. It seems that in each passing moment or so, we get another report of another incident, and our instinct tells us that they are all connected.
What does Tom Clancy think about what you're doing? Because I was reading the synopsis of Coast to Coast AM a few nights ago. When you were on, I guess it would be Tuesday night. I read some of the synopsis yesterday, was unable to listen because I had to get some shut-eye because you were on late. But the quote I saw was that you were talking about you're working on some new books with Tom Clancy. But what's Tom Clancy's view of, you can, I mean, not speak for him, but
I can't speak for Tom. I haven't talked to him in a while. But basically, Tom is a very realistic, smart individual who understands psychological warfare. He's also very funny, what I said. I mean, when you work with him, this is an exceedingly smart, witty individual who understands the dynamics of what's going on. I can't speak on his behalf. I haven't seen him in a while, but he's, I really don't know what he thinks right now in terms of Obama and Osama. And quite frankly, the books we worked on, the various books prior to that and the books that he had, there was always a sense of human reality testing, which is lacking in this country right now. Number one, we do have a need of humor on behalf of some of the people who take themselves so seriously. They're very pretentious, particularly our political leaders, whether it's the head of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. They seem to be very pompous and self-righteous, and good God, every pronouncement sounds as if this was from the words of God. And at the same time, somebody pointed out correctly, your listeners, that Obama doesn't seem to be there. There seems to be what I call a dissociation between the man and his emotions. He's got a very flat affect, what we call very flat, and people pick that up. It's almost as if he's not connected to the message he's saying, yet when he's on the trail, he just loves to shake hands. But be it as it may, people will have different perspectives. As to what Tom thinks, I really don't know. You'd have to interview him, and it would be interesting to hear.
Well, you don't ordinarily expect terrorists to display this degree of expertise. Flying an airplane is not all that easy. Kidnapping or hijacking an airplane, particularly with the safeguards we have at the airports right now, is not a trivial exercise. But unfortunately, the security you have at airports is not perfect, because nothing human beings do is perfect. Somebody thought very carefully and hard and long about this, and then they got some madmen to actually take control of the aircraft.
To come together to speak to the country. Joining me here in the Washington studio, a familiar name, a familiar face, best-selling author of so many novels, Tom Clancy, mysteries at the heart, Tom Clancy, of the military community, the intelligence community. People in our newsroom have been saying today what's happening is like right out of a Tom Clancy novel. But have you could you possibly imagine something like this to write about?
Now, one of the problems with being a writer of fiction is that you can't keep up with all the madmen in the world as much as you try. And I frankly would have thought that this was not a credible threat to have 4 separate people decide to commit suicide in the same way on the same morning.
Why not?
Because ending your own life is not something the average person does. You know, everybody's assuming these are Islamic terrorists. Well, if so, they've defiled their own religion. You know, Islam does not permit suicide. It says you go to hell if you do something like this.
But we see suicide bombings in the Middle East and in Israel. And
Judy, we saw people in Northern Ireland, Catholics acting like savages and Protestants acting like savages. So anyhow, we have people who call themselves Muslims acting like savages. It happens. It's not because of their religions.
It's too bad what happened, all based on a lie. One of them is Afghanistan and Iraq. See, this is going to be a world war, one country at a time. It's unfortunate, but that's the way things are going. So bring our troops home. Say no to war.
PR that was supposed to be in Canada tomorrow.
Is there any evidence that Canada was used by the terrorists to get into the U.S.?
We don't have any. We don't have any.
Do you have any concerns?
Is Canada under any threat at any time?
Issue?
Is Canada under any threat?
Not that I know of. Merci.
The CIA has about 20,000 employees, less than 1,000 of whom are actually field intelligence officers. That number should be at least doubled. But you know, America as a nation doesn't love our intelligence community. And certainly the news media does not love our intelligence community.
I'm going to interrupt you, Tom Clancy. I'm told Aaron Brown in New York has a development. Aaron?
Well, Judy, just in the last few seconds, another building, we will speculate carefully here that there was building number 7, one of the buildings in support of the World Trade Center towers, has collapsed.
The mysterious WTC-7, not even hit by a plane.
People don't even want to realize that there's been millions of deaths and displacements since then.
Day in, day out.